Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article is about heat waves. What is a heat wave? Let's say there is a region. This region has a normal temperature which is prevalent in that region for a longer period of time. There could be some fluctuations, one or two plus or minus in that region. But all of a sudden, there is abnormally high increase of temperature, as much as 5 degrees centigrade increase or about 7 degrees centigrade increase in that specific region. So this abnormal high temperature that is witnessed in that region is what is called as heat waves. These heat waves is prevalent for about 5 days or 6 days or can even stretch for multiple number of days. What are the major problems with respect to heat waves? This is where multiple deaths occur in India. When this happens, large scale losses result into it. This is usually seen in the month of March, April up until July. Let's look at some of the statistics. According to the National Disaster Management Authority, between 1992 and 2016, heat waves caused 25,716 deaths. This is due to heat strokes as well as heat exhaustion. Is this all? No. There have been certain informational dearth as well. There could be a possibility where overheating can also result in organ failure, cardiac arrest, or even brain damage and ultimately death as well. These are not considered under these statistics. As a result, the information that we currently have does not consider the organ failures or the heart attacks that which has caused due to overheating. Now let's look into how the categorization happens. We have the Indian Meteorological Department. It has come up with a categorization. What does it say? It says that heat waves need not be considered as heat waves until the maximum temperature reaches to 40 degrees centigrade for the plains and at least 30 degrees centigrade for the hilly regions. And further, it makes classification as well. Let's say there is a particular region in India, and in this particular region the normal temperature is usually less than 40 degrees centigrade. Now there has been a change with respect to the normal temperature where there is increase in the temperature of about 5 degrees centigrade or 6 degrees centigrade. That is what is called as heat wave departure. So when there is an increase of 5 degrees centigrade or a 6 degree centigrade from the normal temperature, that is the heat wave departure, and that can result in heat wave. Then we also have severe heat wave departure, which means there is change of about 7 degrees centigrade. It also considers another categorization when the normal maximum temperature in that region is more than 40 degrees centigrade. In this particular scenario, heat wave departure is normally seen when there's 4 to 5 degrees centigrade increase, and severe heat wave departure happens when there is increase of about 6 degrees centigrade. But kindly note, if there is a region where the temperature is normally 45 degrees centigrade and if it exceeds anything more than 45 degrees centigrade, that is also considered as heat wave. Now the important question is, what are the health impacts of this heat waves? It causes heat cramps, it causes heat exhaustion, it also causes heat strokes as well. Kindly remember, these three collectively together are what is called as heat related illness. Heat cramps are the least serious of all the three. Let's understand each of them one by one. What is a heat cramp? This is a condition where a person witnesses excessive sweating, and this can also result in involuntary spasms of large muscles in the body. Followed by this, what we have is the heat exhaustion. This will result in fatigue, weakness, headache, nausea, vomiting, and advanced level of muscle spasms as well as sweating as well. Then we have the last stage, which is called as the heat stroke. What is a heat stroke? Heat stroke basically results because that person is exposed to high temperature for a considerable period of time, and this in combination with dehydration results in the failure of the body's temperature controlling system. So when it comes to the medical definition of heat stroke, when the core body temperature is greater than 104 degree Fahrenheit or it is greater than 40 degrees centigrade, That is what is called as heat stroke. So basically, this heat stroke can kill or cause damage to the brain and other internal organs as well. So heat stroke can be much more serious than what we witness in exhaustion. Children, elderly people, and those with already pre-existing morbidities are particularly vulnerable when it comes to the heat waves and its impact on the health. Now the question is, what are the other problems that are associated with the heat waves? Now that we have looked into the health concerns, let's also have a view on the other issues with respect to the heat waves. The agricultural sector happens to be the most vulnerable sector compared to the industrial sector as well as the service sector. Why? Because most of these agricultural laborers work in open fields and they are mostly susceptible to the heat waves and its fluctuations, and they are the ones who are exposed to the heat, and this will have major implications on their health. They'll have major implications on the employment and the well-being of large population of India. Followed by this, heat wave can also result in cattle deaths. It can also result in deaths of the livestock, ultimately harming the farmers and his employability. So the major sufferers are the agricultural sector when it comes to the heat waves. Heat waves can also result in major disruption in the community infrastructure. There would be excessive use of power, and this excessive use of power can also result in blackouts and power cuts as well. So who are the major sufferers? It is the people who are the major sufferers. That is why heat waves is also called as a silent disaster, as it develops slowly and kills human beings as well as animals. Thus, in order to reduce the impact of heat stress, we have to take some precautionary measures. What are these precautionary measures? Drinking sufficient water as much as possible, even if one is not thirsty, is the first key precautionary measure. Why? Because there would be massive sweating, there could be a possibility of dehydration. This has to be avoided. So drinking water as much as possible is the key precaution. Followed by this, avoiding going out in the sun between 12 p.m. up until 3 p.m. is a necessity. Why? It is during this period that we see massive temperature. As a result, we have to avoid going out. Apart from these precautionary measures, what we require is the heat wave action plan. What is this heat wave action plan? This is where the government steps in along with its missionary as well as the administrative personnel. They become very important. Why? Because it is they who set the parameter, a framework for implementation, coordination and evaluation of the response that is required for the heat wave. So what is this heat wave action plan? This is where the temperature forecasting and the heat alerts should be sent as bulk messages to all the people on the mobile phones. So there needs to be an alert that is sent to the people in that specific region so that people are aware about the fluctuations with respect to the temperature. Followed by this, what we require is the public awareness and community outreach. This will require disseminating as much as information about variations in the temperature. How? Through the electronic media, through the print media, through the visual media, through social media, and also educating people by issuing of pamphlets as well as advertisements. Followed by this, the central government and the state governments will also have to coordinate with the non-governmental organization and civil society organizations to improve bus stands, build temporary shelters wherever it is necessary, and also provide drinking water facilities in public forums. It is these initiatives and measures that the government will have to implement so that the disaster that can strike because of heat waves can be minimized. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says, why seek dignified treatment of violators, asks the High Court. There was a petition that was filed in the Bombay High Court. What was this petition all about? This petition applauded the efforts of the police officers. Amidst the COVID-19, the police officers have employed their labor. They have been serving the people of India and the country. In spite of all the issues, they have risked their lives, and this needs to be applauded and appreciated. But there are few policemen who are blot to the police missionary. Why are they blot? Let's take an example. there have been certain violators. They have not been respecting the rules laid by the government, and these are the people who have been violating the rules of the lockdown. When there is a violator, the police officers catch hold of them. They make them hold a placard saying that they are the enemy to the society and humanity, take a photograph of this violator, and then popularize this particular image in social media. The same image will also be picked up by the newspapers and will also be picked up by TV channels as well. So what does the petitioner say? He voices his concern that such photographs, when it comes to the social media, when it comes to the print media, when it comes to the visual media, is a breach and is a humiliating spectacle, as it violates human rights as well as fundamental rights. So such people, such police officers will have to be warned, is what the petitioner says. With respect to this petition, the Nagpur bench of the Bombay High Court has come up with a ruling. What has it said? It said that you, the police officers, we are living in a civilized society. There is something called as rule of law. You have to respect the human dignity and rights. In case you are snatching away the right of a person, if that person has been violating the duties that which is enforced on him, you require a law. Was there a law to take the pictures? Was there a law to take the photograph? No, you did not have any law. So you, the police officers, do not have the right to do such a thing where this leads to a violation of human rights, privacy, and the fundamental rights of a person. That is why the Nagpur bench said that human dignity and rights cannot be sacrificed, and has come up with a recommendation saying that the Nagpur police commissioner will have to sensitize all the police officers to ensure that such incidents do not occur in the near future. So it is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says details of 2.90 crore job seekers on Darknet. There is a company called as Sibyl. This is a US based cyber intelligence firm. What does it do? It always tracks information about the cyber criminals. Cyber criminals usually engage in the nefarious activities, dangerous activities. Why? Because they want to snatch information of the people. That is where they enter into the dark web, deep web, and access illegal information like identity theft, scams, corporate espionage, and also steal personal information. So this cyber will look into all these activities in dark web as well as deep web. What is the present context? According to this particular firm, personal details of about 2.9 crore Indian job seekers have been found dumped on the darknet, where some important information has been compromised. What are these sensitive information? It includes email IDs, phone numbers, home address, qualification, work experience, and all this information could have been taken from job portals like Naukri.com and timesjobs.com. So this ultimately means that there is massive data breach. So what is this data breach? A data breach is an incident where authenticate information which the user knows and that which the company knows is now accessible by a third party without authoritative permission given by both the parties. So illegal handling of this data is what is called as data breach. It exposes all the confidential and protected information that which is not supposed to go into a third party. So a data breach might involve loss or theft of your social security number, bank details, credit card number, health information, passwords or email, or any other sensitive information. So when this is accessed by a third party without permission given by the user or that particular company is what is called as data breach. How does a data breach happen? This can happen in three ways. One is due to insider and privilege misuse. Second is by exploiting system vulnerabilities. And third is due to hacking. First, let us look into insider and privilege misuse. What happens under this criteria? Let's say I am a person who is currently employed in Naukri.com. I am a person who is working with Naukri.com as a network security specialist. I have information about all the users. I have information about what their educational qualification is. Now I have indirectly tied myself up with Times Job. So what do? I leak all my information that is present in Naukri.com to timesjobs.com. So there is breach of data data that is happening. Why? Because I want illegal money. So all the information that I have with respect to the Naukri.com will immediately be shifted to Times Job. That is what is called as insider and privilege misuse. I might be working for one company, but I might give this information to another company, leading to what is called as data breach. Followed by this, what we have is exploiting system vulnerabilities. Let's say we are using an operating system, but this is not upgraded, or we are using a software, but this has certain technical loopholes in it, or we have imported a Trojan or a virus. All this can lead to exploiting the system vulnerabilities by a hacker. And finally, the hacker will always look for information, and ultimately he can also look for data breach as well. So this is how data breach can happen, and the hackers can also do all this for the sake of money. Now the question is, how does this data breach harm the company? Data breaches can hurt the businesses very badly. Why? Because they have to compensate the consumer for all the data losses. They have to investigate this particular incident. So what they do, they have to employ third party, and they have to pay money to them to investigate where exactly the root cause is, what exactly is the security issue, and they will have to patch up this particular software or the operating system. The organization which has lost the data will have a damage to its reputation as well. It can be hard for the organization to retain the customer's trust, particularly if this particular breach is caused by basic security errors, and ultimately this will result in fall in the share prices of the company, and the company suffering huge losses. They may also face legal ramification as well. Let's say if I am the person who's suffering because of data breach, I immediately file a suit against that particular person asking for a compensation. So a lawsuit can also be filed against this particular company. So when a lawsuit is filed against this company, I can also bring an injunction order such that I can prevent this particular company from conducting its daily operations. So ultimately its business suffers. Why? It is not able to carry on with its normal activity. Therefore, organization must take cyber security very seriously, as this could have serious consequences for their businesses, both in terms of monetary as well as in terms of reputation. So proper preventive measures is the best way to ensure that business don't fall victim to the idea of data breach. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says China suggests shift in BRI approach amid the debt concerns. The COVID-19 pandemic has hit the world economy very badly. Countries which are part of China's One Belt One Road initiative are not able to service the debt obligations. They have now requested China either to extend this particular timeline of giving back the credit money, or come up with an alternative solution. This is where China has hinted at a shift in how it will pursue its signatures One Belt One Road initiative. What is that China has said, and what is that China is planning to come up with? It has said that all those countries which are not able to service the debt obligations, you have to closely coordinate and collaborate with us. The minute we find out that there is a new possibility, we can come out with mutually beneficial outcomes. This is where it has said that all those projects which are currently not working, we are ready to invest money into that particular project. Once you are able to generate the profit, use this profit money and give back the particular money that you owe us. So it has said that waiving off cannot be taken up, but only thing that we would be able to do is either postpone the dates so that you can provide us all the debt money, and at the same time we are ready to invest money in your projects. So once you're able to generate the profit, give back this particular money with the profit that you have generated. So what it means is that close coordination and close collaboration is required for mutual benefit of both the parties. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says blood clots in the lung may be a major cause of COVID-19 deaths. The death toll from COVID-19 pandemic has been increasing every single day. Countries have been suffering. This has resulted in deaths of number of people across the world. How this death occurs is a major mystery for the scientific community and also to the doctors. It can be because of pneumonia, it can be because of acute respiratory distress, and it can also be because of multiple organ failure. According to the recent reports, blood clots, which can lead to life-threatening complications, can also result in death, says the recent reports about COVID-19 deaths. Let's try and understand what this issue is all about. First is to understand what is thrombosis. Blood clotting is a natural mechanism. Whenever there is an injury, whenever there is excessive oozing out of the blood, the body steps up its activities and what we have is a blood clot. Thrombosis is the formation of a blood clot which prevents the blood from flowing normally through the circulatory system. So when there is a blood clot which prevents the normal activities from exhibiting, that is what is called as thrombosis. This is followed by a concept called as embolus. What is this embolus? Let's say there is a clot that has happened in one part of the body. So this clot moves into the bloodstream and reaches another part of the body. This can include lungs, this can include heart, and it can also include brain as well. So when this clot which has happened in one part of the body reaches another part of the body is what is called as embolus. When this happens with respect to lung, that is what is called as pulmonary embolism. So a clot which happens in some part of the body enters the lung, that is what is called as pulmonary embolism. Pulmonary embolism can block the flow of blood to the lungs and ultimately affects a person's ability to breathe. Now let us understand the concept of D-dimer. This is nothing but a protein. It is produced when there is excessive blood clotting. So whenever there is an excessive blood clotting that happens, D-dimer test is conducted. What is this D-dimer test? It will identify whether there is excessive blood clot or normal blood clot that happens due to an injury. Whenever there is an excessive blood clot, it results into a protein called as D-dimer that is present in the blood. So what is the present context? All those people who have been suffering from this COVID-19 complications have the presence of D-dimer, which has ultimately resulted in pulmonary embolism, and this has also resulted in respiratory complications, and this can also result in death in the near future. That is where we need to have intervention in order to prevent this respiratory complication. So the critical need therefore is to identify this particular D-dimer, is to identify this pulmonary embolism and thrombosis. So what happens under this? There is excessive blood clotting. So in order to prevent the blood clotting, what we require is to identify this at a very early stage and also administer the patient with blood thinners. So the minute these are administered, what we will see is the number of deaths because of this particular complication can also be reduced. So what are some of the examples of blood thinners? This can include heparin, or we can also administer low molecular weight heparin as well. The minute these are given to the patients when they have been identified with their symptoms, this will result in less number of deaths, is what this article all about. So in the near future, public as well as healthcare officials should be aware of the blood clots in the lung, which can also be severe to the COVID-19 patients. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says domicile rules for Jammu and Kashmir. An elaborate analysis of this has been explained on 2nd April 2020 under the first topic, Center defines Jammu and Kashmir domicile rules. After this order was released, there was uproar in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Why? Reservation for the domiciles was restricted only to Group D, and there was huge uproar, and that is when the government came up with a new notification where it said that reservation is not only restricted to Group D, but it will also be employed for Group A as well as Group B as well. So all government officers will have reservation for the domicile is the new update. Initially when this order was released, the reservation was only for Group D officers, but after this particular uproar, it has now been given to Group A as well as Group B officers as well. It is this that we have to understand, but rest of the analysis remains the same. Now let's look into the next article. This article, what explains India-China border flare-up and why are India-Nepal fighting over Kalapani, has been explained in yesterday as well as day before yesterday CNA. So kindly look into it. Now let's look into some of the prelims practice questions. Which of the following have been accorded geographical indication status? Erode's turmeric, Nilambar teak and Tirupati Ladu. Select the correct answer using the code given below. The answer to this is 1, 2 and 3. All the three have been given the geographical indication status. Erode's turmeric belongs to the state of Tamil Nadu, Nilambar teak belongs to the state of Kerala and Tirupati Ladu belongs to the state of Andhra Pradesh. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference given under this article with respect to Tirumala Ladu. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements with respect to Japanese encephalitis. It is a mosquito-borne viral infection. Japanese encephalitis virus can transmit from one person to another. Which of the following statements are correct? The answer to this is one only. Why is the second statement wrong? This cannot transmit from one person to another. That is why 2 is wrong. The answer to this is A. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference given under this article. Now let's look into the next practice question. With reference to Malabar Wildlife Sanctuary, which of the following statements is incorrect? The sanctuary is part of Western Ghats in state of Kerala. The sanctuary area constitutes watersheds of Kuttiyadi River. Southwest monsoons alone bring rains to this region. The answer to this is, it is asking for the incorrect statement, so it is 3 only. Why? It is not only the southwest monsoon, the northeast monsoons also bring rains to this region. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference given under this article. Also remember, Kanyakumari Wildlife Sanctuary is in the state of Tamil Nadu. So kindly note, there have been some important definitions that are given under this. One is nervosum, which refers to the presence of prominently raised lateral and intramarginal veins on the lower surface of the lamina. Then you have sericus, which refers to the presence of dense silky hair on the petals. So these are important definitions. Kindly remember them. Now let's look into the next practice question. Each day is more or less the same. The morning is clear and bright with a sea breeze. As the sun climbs high in the sky, heat mounts up, dark clouds form, then rain comes with thunder and lightning. But rain is soon over. Which of the following regions is described in the above passage? The answer to this is equatorial. Now let's look into the mains practice question. What is a heat wave? Discuss the impact of heat waves on health and economy. Suggest an action plan to minimize the impact. Data breaches are likely to have financial and reputational effects on the company. Elaborate. Please write all your answers on the comment section. If you liked our initiative, please do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.